beautiful land. Zimbabwe is beautiful. Go back home.
All right. Ndugu, you wanted to read a second quote?
Yes, I think this one is very timely, given everything that's happening right now on our motherland. The Africans' disposition towards nature was that nature can do without humans, but not vice versa. For instance, in Kiswahili, the saying goes, itunze ardhi vyema, hukupewa na wazazi, bali umekopeshwa na dhuria zako. Take good care of the earth. It is not given to you by parents, but you have been lent it by your descendants. Herein lies the warning that our negative actions against the environment today become our children's heritage. They will bear the brunt of nature's wrath. Yoruba people have the same warning. Lo jeje ni, oh my goodness, I'm going to butcher this. Lo jeje ni agbayeti, oba ni ipalara, kolepada.
Tread already left.
Lord have mercy. Tread softly in the world. If it is harmed, it cannot return. isiZulu have an equivalent, albeit with a double meaning. Ishilala is
Isihlahla.
Isihlahla asinyelwa. Do not defecate under a tree just because you are done using its shade. You might need it again. Another meaning refers to human relations. Do not make enemies of a person because you think you are done needing them, for you might just need them again.
So all spiritualities are practiced this way. Nature is in you and you are in nature. That's why a tree is important. That's why a child will come to me and say, Mama KHANYISILE, I don't know how to ukupahla, that is prayer in African spirituality, for Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, and Swati. They will say, I don't know how to ukupahla because I don't know who my real father is. And when I ask my mother, they become very angry. So I don't know how to connect with my paternal side. And then the culture says, the culture says, that's not a problem. Go and find a flowing stream or go and find a tree in the forest. You know, that you see is very old. It has got deep roots and you can do that under that tree because that's a neutral land. It's no man's land. And when you do it, first acknowledge abaphansi bendawo, which is ancestors of the place, because there are people who owned that place before it has become what it is now. So first ensure that you give respect to them, and then you can do your thing. It then becomes a neutral ground. So that's why for us, nature is important. That's why land is important for us. So yes, that's why we respected nature so much that we knew we can't live without nature, but nature can live without us because nature was part of our spirituality. Nature was part of what they would call a mosque, Muslims, what Christians would call a church, what Jews would call a temple. For us, that's what nature is. That tree is important because I might need it in performing the rituals I need to perform for my spirituality. That stream is important. I cannot be throwing used napkins into it. I cannot be defecating into it because I might need it to go and wash. I might have incurred such bad luck that it's not enough to just take a shower. I need to be dipped into that stream and taken out. I need that mountain. So you can't start burning those trees because it could get so bad in my life, in my need to connect and cleanse. I might need to climb up to the highest peak of that mountain. So that's what all these sayings are saying in Swahili, in Yoruba, in Zulu, and I'm sorry, there is much more in all other African languages that prove that for us, nature was important. Nature was in us and we were in nature. So the global warming we are having now, we need to just point this out very quickly, Mabelo and Dugu, my kid sister. The white man has caused global warming and they are continuing to cause global warming. So now I don't understand when people tell me white is right and white is might. No, guys. No, please. Can we decolonize language? White is stupid and white is weak. Because why has whiteness declared war on the environment? Why did whiteness declare war on another race called Africans? Why did they declare war on another race called the Mongoloid race? On Asians, they colonized as far as Asia, by the way. So, no, let's just call a spade a spade. It is whiteness that has caused global warming. And in not respecting nature, they have shown their stupidity, their arrogance. And now nature is hitting back and we are all suffering.
It's funny, Mama KHANYISILE says that, Mabella, in my people's language, the Akamba people, we have a song that was taught to the children, that essentially the song is about a man who's going to visit his in-laws, and he decides to defecate in the wood on the way to his in-laws. And the poop follows him all the way to his in-laws, singing to him, rolling, 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 we're coming with you to see your in-laws. Essentially,
Wow.
to discourage people from pooping, because you don't want to go see your in-laws with the poop that's following you. But yes, it was even told in things like that, where a children's song, and I have sung it to my own children. That where you're essentially being told to take care of nature.
And in that instance, Ndugu, pre-colonial African culture, virgin pre-colonial African culture would have said, we understand that you can't hold it until you get your in-laws. So in the instance where you have defecated in the forest or under a tree, dig and cover it. It will become manure. Because if you don't, you have dragged us all into your defecation. That's why it will follow you to your in-laws. Wow, I like that rhyme. Is it in Kamba?
Yes, it's in Kikamba. Mbingilite, mbingilite, twadhina ku, mbingilite, kwa mudhoni, mbingilite, kuyaka kima, mbingilite.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, my sister. Okay. So now that we understand that Christianity was used to support imperialism, colonialism, enslavement, and I mentioned before, it effectively deified European culture. And the same thing with Arabs, when they did the same thing to Islam, by positioning it as the standard of civilization. Christianity's spread was not just about converting souls, but about reinforcing European cultural hegemony,
Of course.
defining what was civilized and what was savage or hidden. So this enabled European powers to impose their social, political, and economic system on other cultures, often violently and under the guise of divine mandate. Because I know you said before, when I was going to ask, why did they remove women from all the spiritual position? And I so and respond to that, because those are conversations that other people here were a part of, but you and I talked about it. So tell us, why did they remove women from spiritual positions in African spirituality? And Christianity?
I'm so happy you are asking that, Mabelo. Truly, the ancestral spirit is here with us and it's alive, because they didn't start with African women. In all spiritualities, women are at the epicenter. Whether that spirituality, you find it amongst the Mongoloid race, or amongst the Caucasian race, or amongst the Negroid race, as spirituality in essence, its foundation is matriarchal, because spirituality moves from the premise that a woman gives birth. Therefore, because they give birth, it means they have a certain understanding of creating life. Therefore, they become in charge of agriculture so they can touch the ground and bless it with the fertility of their wombs. And because of that, women are also then allowed to lead the chart in spirituality, because it is thought and assumed that because they are procreating this life, therefore they are closer to the spirit world, which is why Ma'at, for instance, for Kemet, becomes the judge of the souls in the underworld. You know, she is the one that brings the tapestry together. You know, she's the one that collects it all under one. So I'm glad you asked that. They didn't start with Africans. They started with their own people. You know, in Europe now, there's also a resurgence of European women who are saying, what were German women before German women were German women?
Yeah, I heard that.
Yes. What were Scottish women before Scottish women were Scottish?
We are awakening now.
Going back to the nations, and that's a podcast on its own. For the sake of our people, we should have it. Because the nations you see in Europe today are not the original nations. If you look at the Celts, the Scots, and the Welsh, for instance, they come from what was called the Celtic people. The Celts. The Celts were highly spiritual. As a matter of fact, they aced time travel. That's why when you see a lot of movies that depict that era about the Scottish people, it will depict how they time traveled. They aced time, because time traveling is part of spirituality. So what then Christianity did was take out the white woman first. There was an era that was ordained by the Pope called the era of the Inquisition, where the Pope dispatched with authority the inquisitors to go from village to village, burn at stake or murder women who were in spirituality.
Yeah.
The term, when people are not, the term is eluding me, but I know you'll know it because you're a lawyer. When we don't take you to court and we decide that we just get together and we decide that we are guilty, what do we call it?
Oh,
Mob justice.
It's not jungle. It's not jungle law. I'm trying to.
what's it called? Oh, God.
It will come.
Banana Republic?
No. That term comes from that period of Inquisition, because these women were never taken to a formal court of law where they could defend themselves. They were sentenced solely on the evidence of what the villagers are saying. We saw Ndugu look at the moon during full moon and speak to the moon. Every night we see Ndugu disappear into the forest. Therefore, Ndugu is a heretic. She is anathema to the Catholic Church. They took out all those women. Most of them were burned at stake. Some were crucified upside down. Kangaroo court. Thank you, Nyamfor. A kangaroo court. It's not based on any scientific evidence. In fact, we hardly prove the crime that you get found guilty of. It comes from that period of the Inquisition. The women were taken out because, again, to force convert the whole of Europe into Christianity, they had to take the European woman out, who was the one holding spirituality. Same pattern in Africa. By the time they came here, they had perfected that mode. That's why when they came here, the African woman was the first person to be taken out. That's why even Christianity, the woman is the first thing Christianity takes out. Right in Genesis.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, guys, right in the beginning of things.
Yeah.
The woman is taken out as the beguiler, the deceiver of the men, the deceiver of mankind, the deceived and the deceiver. Downgrade her right in the beginning of this belief system, so that as the belief system proceeds, she becomes nothing but the dust of the earth. So I hope I've answered you why the African woman was taken out first.
Yeah.
When you take her out, you weaken spirituality, you weaken culture, you weaken agriculture, you force convert all Africa into the cash crop. You put men in front and you pay them, and what has happened to our soil?
Yeah,
the penis was put on the soil, but the penis, its semen, when it falls on the ground, it dries. But when the womb touches the soil, the fertility of the womb transmits its fertility to the soil. And I know people who rebuff out of ignorance will say, oh, what about women who have no children? It does not mean that they still do not carry the fertility of the womb men. They still have a womb.
Yeah.
I hope I answered you.
Yeah, I think our people understood this because they know it needed a woman for a semen to get into a womb for it to get life and to produce human beings. And even with the Bible will say before something could live, it must die. You must die before you are born again. And but sometimes again, that's why I continue to tell my fellow Christians, how are we not loving God with our mind? The Bible will tell you your first birth is not real because that one is tainted with original sin. So you got to be reborn. Well, who gives birth? They say you got to be reborn in a spirit because they want to erase women role. So we have God the Father who is a single father. He ain't got wife. He doesn't impregnate anybody, but you become born again in the spirit because they wouldn't give a pronoun she or her to the Holy Spirit. So it's always the Holy Spirit, God the Father, and then they have a son, God the Mother, no, God the Holy Spirit. So you see no woman in that picture. You know what it does to your mind psychologically?
Mm.
No woman in the picture. This is like you have been saying, it's just a system, a political system, a cultural system that was removing women. A page in that system is just patriarchy.
Mm.
How does a father or parent or God doesn't have a mother but got all these children? How does this God create us, male and female, to reproduce of its kind? We're made in their image, but then He is one. It's only Him.
Mm. Mm.
And somehow
Mm.
He made of His kind of female, but then we cannot say God the mother. So,
I
yeah.
like to give the example of race when you talk like that, because remember the first pictures of God was the white Jesus hanging on the walls of the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church and the first denominations that came here. Now, play this out in your mind, honestly, and I've played these games with white South Africans in defense who were genuine and honest enough to understand the concept of racism. I'm not talking about those who are still stuck in their racist mode. They will tell you, look, when we are white, it's almost like you have to struggle not to be racist. You have to struggle not to have superiority complex, because the whole world is curtailed to affirm whiteness and to degrade yellowness or blackness, the other two races. Because God is white as God came into the two continents of Asia and the Christian God to the continent of Asia and Africa. Came as a white God. The angels are little white boys. The Jews are depicted as white. And melanin, now we must talk about a period which is in the book called Scientific Racism. Melanin was seen as dirty and you are not showering enough, that's why you're dark skinned. I mean, hell, Hegel even had the nerve to say Africa is not in history. Hegel, the founder of communism, by the way, and socialism. Hegel even had the nerve to say Africa is in prehistory and not even in history, and that it is the sun that has bubbled up our minds and slowed our thinking. So with all of that, and while the era of scientific racism came to an end, the belief system did not change because the whole world is curtailed around that. That's why in Africa there is Ramadan on television, but not African spirituality holidays. There is Easter and Christmas on television, but not African spirituality holidays. I mean, the new year of Africans starts in September. There is nothing on South African television that even talks about that. I don't think our government even has interest to even talk about that. But on 31st December, it will be everything. Happy New Year. You'll see the signs, the towns will be decorated. So, the white people that I had honest conversations within the Navy would say, we see that you are a reasonable person. Try and put yourself in our shoes and tell us if you would not feel superior if you were us.
Right?
The whole world circulates around whiteness.
Yeah.
Now, it is the same concept with patriarchy. If you are a Christian and everything centers around maleness, why would you be a Christian and be gender inclusive? Why would you be a Muslim and be gender inclusive?
Right.
Why would you be a Judaist, the three religions of the book, and be gender inclusive if even praying in the same room is not allowed? Oh my God,
No.
honestly.
We
Honestly.
are not allowed to preach to you, to talk to you.
Honestly. So it is the same thing with race. If you want to understand patriarchy as an African, understand the race concept. I mean, as you and me sit here and talk, it is only in about 5 African countries where Africa Day is a holiday. But in all of them, Easter and Ramadan are holidays. Christmas is a holiday. So if you are a Christian, why would you not look down on African spirituality? Because Christianity is a state religion. It keeps being renewed and beefed up by the state system and the democratic system that we are all told is good to everybody. It is not good to me as a person in African spirituality because it does not speak to my holidays. It does not speak to anything that I do. Now, if you understand that, understand gender, then there is no way African men are going not that they will not declare war on us. There is no way we cannot see a high level of GBV in Africa because we have gone and made the African man god of the house where he wasn't before. We killed the African originator and replaced them with maleness and with whiteness. That's why the African woman suffers even more than the men. The man suffers the wrath of whiteness. We suffer the wrath of whiteness and the wrath of the black man. It's painful.
Just to add to what
my heart goes out to African women. Honestly, keep fighting, African women. Show yourself of sanity, because the system out here right now, honestly, is trying to reduce us all into a mental asylum.
Quick question, Mabella, before you go on, to add to what Mama Kanyisile is saying. If this God that we have chosen to believe in detests women so much, why does he assign the most important duty to the woman?
I don't know.
In life?
So honestly, I have discussed that. I have written about that. You know, I do a lot of blogging. I have, but I agree with you. I see the question. I hope we think about that. I'm grateful. This kind of conversation, that's what I keep telling us, is for us to think. Why are things the way they are? You know, Mama Kanyisile said, why wouldn't I like something she said, that some of the white people talk to her and say, you are making great points, because she's a scholar. She's found herself in a kind of cycle presenting, and to be like, but the world is built around elevating us. So even it's subconsciously we consider ourselves superior. And that's what I tell men when I'm writing. I'm like, especially Christian men, who would be like, well, God said that the woman should submit, but he told us, he told us to love your woman when she submit, love her. Don't step down on her. It doesn't mean subordinate her. And I'm like, God leaves you that responsibility to be the one who will be kind. God gave you the power to be the benevolent one. If this God is fair and just, God did not just do it outrightly from the beginning. God gave the power to mere human being like you, where he know human being have the tendency to be corrupt. When you have power, that we can wrong, we can miss the way. God will give you the power to be able to control yourself, how to treat somebody equal, and God just didn't do that from the beginning. Then that is not an okay God.
I am getting a message, even as you shared what you just shared. My kid sister Ndugo, it is then fair to say God is the first one to introduce conditional love in sexual relationships. Love this woman because she's timid and surrendering to you.
No, you mean a Christian God?
Yes, that's what I mean. The Christian God. I mean, that's what we are talking about.
Okay.
Love this woman only when she's timid and surrendering and kneeling at your feet. When they dare to question you, then no, they are no longer lovable because they are not submitting to you. Wow. Why then do we blame men for calling a woman like Mabelo, you, my kid sister Ndugu, myself, and all the other women who are like you and me of this world? Why do we blame men when they call us rebellious, untamed, too authoritative?
They call that.
They call us too much.
Intense.
Intense.
Not only do they do that, they say that when we are those things, we are no longer woman, we are manly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't mind him. Well, let me read my brother's statement so that I can go to the next one. He says, some of us African men are rethinking patriarchy. Good. That's what we want. That's what we're having the kind of conversations for. We're glad for people like you, yeah, who have the ability, the capability to rethink. Uh, he said, we have daughters. We are allies in our sisters and daughters' struggles for equality. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. I know you. And I
Thank you, my brother.
yeah, I follow his work. He's a blogger too, and they journalism.
Thank you, Nyamfor. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Please get us more men who think like you.
I know, I know, I know. That's my good brother. Okay, so now that African spirituality is often mislabeled as witchcraft. And so people are afraid to even talk about it openly. I have a friend who the other day called me and was like, hey, somebody was saying, did you watch your friend Priscilla broadcast today? And then I was telling the person, why should I watch her broadcast when she elevated witchcraft and making it fun and referring to it as African spirituality. So, people are afraid to even talk about it. So, where does this fear come from? And how was this demonization ingrained in us during colonization?
Thank you, Mabelo. I'm looking at the time. For me, who is in SA, it's already 21:11. So I think we'll deal with this question and then we'll deal with one last one.
Okay.
Well, it is normal. It's funny, the spirit really speaks. I love the ancestral spirit, and maybe it's because we did the right thing when we started Mabelo. We invited our ancestral spirits of Africa in general. Because yesterday I was watching something on TV and a message was given me for today in a phrase, but it's also my Twitter byline, by the way.
Okay.
When the West colonized the world, they colonized epistemology. What is epistemology? Epistemology is the study of knowledge. How do you gain knowledge? What do you define as knowledge? Now, that was given to me because the person on TV was trying to explain the same thing. In fact, it's a documentary called Colin in Black and White. He was saying, they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But what if the eyes have been colonized? It means beauty is not in the eyes of the beholder. It is in the eyes of the colonized eyes. Hey, I hope I'm making sense. Now, I was reminded back to my Twitter handle and my byline. When they colonized the world, they colonized epistemology, which means what Africans even define as knowledge is colonized knowledge. How we get to knowledge is itself colonized. Now, let me come to answer your question. Why do most Africans say African spirituality is demonic? Because they were told so by Christianity and Islam. Isn't it? When the colonizers came here, both Arab and European alike, they did not want Ndugu because it was a heathen name. You had to be Ibrahim. You could not be Ndugu. You had to be Mary or Magdalene for the Christians. For the Arabs, you had to be Ibrahim. What are other common names amongst Arabs? What are other common names? You had to be
Abdullahi, Muhammad,
What are the common female names?
Fatima,
Aisha,
Mhm.
Fatima.
Yeah.
You could not be KHANYISILE. You could not be Kama. Kama, they will even tell you, are making it even harder for Europeans to pronounce it. Find a better name. So our names were called heathen. Our foremothers and forefathers were called demons. That's why we needed to be saved. We needed salvation, either into Islam for those who were colonized and converted into Islam, or into Christianity for the greater part of Southern Africa for those who faced a Christian colonization. Now they had another system. Funny that we were talking about it yesterday also. So say they come to a community that has got 10 villages. And amongst these 10 villages, 3 villages convert to Christianity. Remember, they are now the social services dispenser. The colonial administrator is now the one dispensing social services. They've taken over your land. So they've given you little plots that, sometimes are not even viable for agriculture. Now they will take these 3 villages that have converted and put them on a pedestal. And the rest of your villages, in Xhosa, they would call them in Zulu, Amaqaba. The Xhosa people have a name, actually. I must get to it. It also has a click. In essence, it promoted uncivilized, demonic people. And then these 3 villages who are the example that the rest of the 7 must follow. And then they will instigate the 3 villages to start looking down on you. And then they will even arm these 3 villages to declare war on you, because you, the 7 villages that are not converting, you are bringing bad luck on the land. You are making the land unproductive with your heathenness, because you are refusing to accept Christ and receive blessings and have a new dispensation. So it has a history, that thing of saying African spirituality is demonic. Actually, every African who say that, I just say, my God, if you are 40 years of age, you are still colonized at 40. If you are 50, truly at 50, you are still colonized. Remember, for the first people to whom Islam and Christianity came, it was the barrel of the gun. A lot of them were first converted, like Neander refused to convert, and they hanged her. She was beheaded for it. Now, for people today with so much social media and so much knowledge, the 21st century is called the information age, or the age of knowledge. If at 50 you are still calling African spirituality demonic, my brother and my sister, that's stupidity by choice. There's no other way to define it. It is stupidity by choice. If you still think Christianity is the only religion and the rest can go to hell, that's stupidity by choice. In the 21st century, you're stupid by choice, honestly. So, yeah, that thing is historic. It is the Arab and the white person that called our spirituality demonic, and Africans have been running with it because epistemology is colonized. What we define as knowledge and how we get knowledge is demonic. You see, for Christians, Neander does not matter, but the Virgin Mary matters. For Christians, Mujaji 1 and Mujaji 2, the founders of the only surviving matriarchal reign kingdom in southern, they don't matter because they are nothing but demons. The Virgin Mary matters. Saronia Mango, who shape-shifted into a panther to avert being beheaded by the French for refusing to convert to Catholicism, she does not matter. She's not even a martyr. The Virgin Mary matters. So you understand? Because these are cultural constructs. Christianity is a cultural construct. And as a cultural construct, it had to bring down the other cultural constructs for it to stand. And the best way to do that was to demonize them. Now, Africans, because they're still mentally colonized, because the epistemology is colonized, they have not deconstructed other ways to get to knowledge. They still use the colonial one, which is colonized. They will rock up and tell you it is demonic. Actually, what we are saying, you should be asking me, because I have been, I think, to over 30 African countries now. And in some of them, when I say I'm in African spirituality, my hosts quickly say, shh, don't proclaim that out so loud. And I say, why? They say, because, it's witchcraft. And I say, why is it witchcraft? There's witchcraft and there's spirituality. The two are not the same. There are demons in Christianity. Does that make Christianity demonic? Christianity believes they are demons. And we've seen them being cast in the Christian ethos from Genesis to Revelation. Does that mean Christianity is demonic? So,
Yeah. And you said they will be like, well, people would think that you are a witchcraft, and you can be like, what? I don't care. I know I'm not a witch. I'm a spiritualist. Yeah. Okay. So, uh, um, where was I going to end? And you said one more. So now that African people, for us, African people, as well as other colonized groups, adapting Christianity without understanding this deeper political context, it means participating in a deification of a culture that is not ours, and internalizing European cultural supremacy or Arab cultural supremacy, and by extension, the devaluation of our own indigenous spiritual system and cultural identities. This result in a marginalization of African spirituality and spiritual practice and traditions. But Mama, can you see? You said it can be, we can walk away from that. Somewhere you said we can make a comeback. So, how did you embrace African spirituality? African spirituality is a personal journey of decolonization. I think I heard you say that before. How did you begin this journey? And what advice will you give to others who are looking to decolonize their minds and reconnect to our heritage? Because we put a lot out there today for people to chew on, to think about. And then if somebody decide, how do I retrace my step? Let's begin with you as a person. How did you
Well,
journey back?
I'm not even going to personalize it to me, because I want Ndugu to answer also, because she runs Kumbukeni, and I know this is very central, having engaged her. She does not call, in fact, makes her very angry. You can even hear the tone of her voice changes when we talk about this. Change your epistemology. Change how you acquire knowledge and what you define as knowledge. Why have you allowed a race that came forth around 800 BCE to dictate to you a race that was here for thousands of years in BCE? As I said, I can trace Nubia to 11,000. And that's not the first civilization. Because you have in South Africa one called Inzalo Yelanga in Mpumalanga. That's 200 and something thousand years old. How do you allow a race that came about around 800 BCE with the Greek Empire, then gave birth to the Roman Empire and the nations that are in Europe? How do you allow, in South Africa, I would say Jim comes to Joburg, to tell you who is God and what is religion and what is knowledge? How do you allow that? I mean, that's why I say you truly have to be stupid as an African, and we all were. We start there with stupidity because it's systemic. You have to be stupid to believe a race that was born in 800 BCE, dictating to a race that existed for thousands of years by the time that race came, which is why Nduku loves the timeline, because it shows when they came onto the face of the earth and what we had achieved leading up to that. It's really stupid for you to allow them to dictate to you what is knowledge and how to gain knowledge. Besides, what have Westerners ever given us that is truly liberating? Why would you allow them to tell you what is
equality? They say they're breaking gender equality through the UN.
Sorry?
Oh no, I was responding to your question. You said what have they brought to us? I said gender equality. Remember, they bringing gender equality. That's when Mama Kaisile can say we were doing that before they came and
before exactly
the whole thing, and say Jesus said no.
Yeah. I mean, what have they ever given you that has truly affirmed you? They came here to civilize us. Are we civilized? Look at the mess they left behind. Underdevelopment, stealing our minerals, killing and raping, pillaging, enslaving us. So why would you allow such a nation to start telling you, man, some of the things even make me angry because you shouldn't even be explaining them. That's like preschool and grade R knowledge. A man cannot burst into your house, rape your daughters in front of you, rape your wife in front of you, amass everything that is in your house and make you live in your house like slaves, and he's the Lord. And then after some time, the same man turns around and say, by the way, I don't think I like your ethics and your morality. I am here to teach you better ethics and morality. And I see you guys kneel at the corner. I don't know which God that you are praying to. That God is a small boy compared to the God of rape and pillage and land grabbing that I'm bringing here. That God is better than your God. You truly, I mean, honestly, guys, I rest my case. I shouldn't say anymore.
Sister Nugu, you got something to add?
I missed the question because I was typing as you were saying. Please repeat the question.
The question is, so now we know that we've been talking about it, right? That the people of African descent engaging in Christianity, in Islam, in the other imported religion, without acknowledging how it has been used politically, risks unintentionally reinforcing these systems of oppression that deify someone else's culture while denigrating our own culture. So if somebody now is thinking, oh my God, they have shared some things. Now I want to embrace African spirituality. How do they begin this journey? And what advice will you give to others who are looking to decolonize their minds and reconnect with their heritage?
And
So
my kid sister, sorry, I had started by saying change your epistemology.
Yeah.
Change what you define as knowledge and how you gain knowledge. I think, yeah.
You're right, because some of these people will go straight to the what
The
are they
Bible.
called, the universities, and want to get a doctorate in African spirituality. That's where they're going to go, and they will seek what are they called, intellectuals with doctor and this and that title, and make them yes, you're right, Mama Kanyisile, you have to change your mindset as far as how you look at knowledge. Two things before I give my answer. Number one, I recommend everyone who is listening, if you can get access to this book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, or the
Hitman.
new book, New Confessions of an Economic Hitman. This is
And how
Mzungu telling you everything we've been talking about from experience in his own words, so that those of you who are calling us racist, those of you who are calling us hateful, can hear from the Mzungu himself telling you exactly what they do and why they do it. And Christianity is covered in the book, and the church is covered in the book. But
can you put a name in a
I will when I finish speaking. Yes, I will. For those of you who are being offended by being called stupid by Mama Kanyisile because you follow Christianity, because I know Christians, you're very fragile. Because you've taken on the Western culture, which is very fragile spiritually. So I know it's hitting you hard. This is the description of stupidity. Behavior that shows a lack of good sense or judgment. Behavior that shows a lack of good sense or judgment. The way I have done this journey, because I was Catholic since I was born. My first name is Joan, and I was given that name after Pope John Paul because he was in Nairobi the day I was born. So I was very much as stupid because I was behaving in a way that showed lack of good sense or judgment for many years before I stopped and started. And it started slowly. I would go to church. It started because I was in boarding school as a young girl. And in boarding school, I remember the first time this came across my mind. The head mistress of my school, I was in primary, I still wasn't in high school, was a nun. And all of a sudden we were told she's leaving because she's become pregnant. And we asked, who made her pregnant? The priest made her pregnant. So I'm sitting asking, and the priest continues to come on Sunday to tell us how to be good. And you've been telling us all this time the nun is married to Jesus and she cannot defile her body because she's married to Jesus. She's keeping it pure for him. But now she has defiled it. Not only are you, first of all, you're punishing the nun and not the priest. The priest continues to preach to us what is right and wrong. So that's when I started questioning. And then the other time was when I was told I have to go to confession in a booth and confess to a man. And by the way, these men in my home where I come from were coming to our house for drinks with my parents. So I saw them coming to our house for drinks and misbehaving. But that same man is who I am going to go to the booth and confess my sins to. These are the things that you have to ask yourself. And it was very hard to realize. Mentally, it was very hard to realize that what I had believed for so many years was a lie. But I had to get over it, because the stupid thing to do is to continue believing it once you've realized it's a lie. That is the stupid thing to do. And therefore, I started reading, I started engaging with people like Mama KHANYISILE. You have to go back. The simplest way to reconnect with African spirituality is reconnecting with nature. That's the simplest way, honestly. Reconnect with nature. Within nature is African spirituality. And in fact, African spirituality is that interaction with nature and with every creation. But again, watch out for the zealots. Mama KHANYISILE will tell you there are people out here pretending to be African spirituality experts, but they are not. So again, keep your wits open and always in check. Critical analysis. That's the best thing I can advise you all. Critical analysis. Always question everything that you encounter.
Yeah, thank you. And like you said, go to this. I like something you said from the beginning. You say, some of you, I know you're intellectual, you want to go to the library, you want to talk to scholars, you want to go and do your research at the universities. But you know, Dr. Ashebe was on here a few months ago, and she said I did 33 years of research going back and forth from the US to Nigeria to visit shrines of our people, to sit
Exactly.
with the elders, to spend months in the villages. That's where to go, because the knowledge that I've compiled in my research that I'm sharing here, you will not find it in a run-of-the-mill textbooks in a library.
I'm glad you said that, Mabelo, because I did something last year when I went home. And the way I approached it, because my father is still Christian and my uncle, the way I approached it is, Dad and uncle, could you sit with me and tell me the history of our family? And within that sitting, they told me about what we were doing before outside. And then they say the Catholic priest comes and this is when we start following this. And I ask, what did we do before that? That is how you get that history. And that is how you reconnect with your way before Christianity.
Yeah, she said that. She said because what you will find there, most of those that wrote it, they were government paid historians, you know, people who took accounts for the government. They're not going to write something to promote African culture, the good side. They didn't even talk to women. In fact, those were, you know, those were very misogynistic people. They didn't even talk to women. So she says, so I took all these years, like 30 years or plus for my PhD to go back and forth. So now you don't have to go do what when these people, you don't have to do what Mama did if you don't want to go back there in a village. These people have already done the work, they've done the research, they collect, they live on the ground, they compile it. Get her book. The link is here in the comment section. Get her book. Get these people book. Like Indugu say, watch out for the zealots, the African spirituality expert, because now it's becoming training. Everybody is going there. Be careful who you are learning from. Critical thinking is encouraged. This is not a system where don't question God before you enter in hell. No, I think African spirituality is open-minded. You can go. I mean, Mama Kanyisile has always said it. Africans didn't kill each other because the Yoruba believe God this way and the Igbo does not believe God that way. They all accommodated and they recognize that the culture is unique in each group. Mama Kanyisile, she was just responding to the question. Then I went on.
I could hear.
Okay. All right. So now, as we wrap up, is there anything you want to end with?
Yes, I want to end with two things. The one you alluded to just now. Nowhere in the history of Africans has African spirituality gone to war because of African spirituality. Zulu people have never fought with Xhosa people because Xhosa people use the sheep and they use the goat. I'm making an example. Because Xhosa people make their umqombothi, which is the traditional beer you use in African spirituality, because they start making it on Tuesday and these ones start making it on Wednesday. Because they serve it before the food and the others serve it after the food. Nowhere in the history of Africa, and we are the oldest race on earth, have we ever gone to war with each other because of spirituality. So it's safe to say our spirituality has never killed anybody but Christianity has actually, research was done. Christianity has got more corpses underground than the state, than any other state, and than any other religion. And I have remembered the word I was looking for, Ndugu. It's called witch hunt. So the inquisitors from the Pope would go village to village looking for white women witches. And you were qualified as a witch because you were practicing spirituality. That's where the word witch hunt came from. And in that era alone, I don't know how many people, how many women the Catholic Church alone has killed, actually. My second one, and a parting shot, is that I was stupid too, like you. I was raised Catholic. And can I tell you, because Catholicism also is the belief system that says you can't marry outside Catholicism. When you marry someone, they must come and be a Catholic. It presupposes itself as the only denomination that is rightfully going to heaven. Hence, the Pope is the vice of Jesus on earth. He is the vicar of Jesus on earth, or the representative of Jesus on earth. When I was raised with that, without my choice, because Catholics baptize you as a baby. So even by the time I'm 8, 9, or 10, I mean, I'm sprouting Catholicism out of my mouth like it is my pre-colonial destiny, you know? So I was stupid too when I was there, because I used to feel sorry for my non-Catholic friends, my neighbors, those I went to Catholic schools. So it would be my friends who didn't go to Catholic schools. I would feel so sorry for them, because I would just look at them and think, my God, their parents are so stupid. If only they knew that they are making these children lose their way. Then I moved from there to another judgmental Christian system, the born again or the evangelical. Again, how sorry I used to feel for people who had not accepted Christ. I remember standing by my father's bedside in hospital in 1980. I was doing grade 11, and my father had diabetes and gangrene, and I mean, he was on his way out. I remember I couldn't even have a conversation with him, how I cry for that lost moment. I couldn't converse with my own father at that moment, because I was overcome by the grief of him going to hell, because he had not accepted Jesus into his heart, because he was Catholic and I was now born again. It makes you so judgmental. I mean, I remember how I hated a whole group of people, different sects of people, and I had no reason why I hated them, because the religion had told me that they are not part of my fold. I mean, I would feel guilty giving money to a non-Christian who was in need, but they were not born again, because I would just feel like, I have planted, but I've planted in a demonic soil. Someone is asking quickly, was there a connection between African spirituality and Mfekane? Mfekane is the Nguni for Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, and Swati. The Sotho people call it Difekane. That was state formation. I've talked about this in many platforms, Nyamfor. Every community amongst the three races has gone over what is called state formation, where the bigger swallow the smaller in the building of a state. That's why the Zulu people grew from a smaller nationality to a bigger one. It was a period of state formation. Is there a connection between it and spirituality? I suppose, for me, I could say the connection for Zulu people was that Shaka came to disrupt. Because remember, he gets born in a period where Zulu people themselves are becoming patriarchal. From where? Because I've just given a history in the same podcast that shows that they were patrilineal, not patriarchal. So he gets born in an era where we are losing it as a people. And I say we, I'm not Zulu, but I'm counting myself for the sake of the podcast, where they were now judging so harshly a child born out of wedlock, illegitimate, we shall not accept them. Shaka, I believe, was raised in the spirit world by the Zulu cosmologists to come and disrupt a narrative that says you're born out of wedlock, therefore you're nothing. You're born out of wedlock, therefore you're not fully human. We shall ridicule you. We shall scorn you. We shall reduce you into nothingness. That's why even his praise poetry says, he was the gossip of women, even when they went to the river, who were saying he will amount to nothing, but he rose to become such a powerful figure that grew the Zulu people to the mighty people that they are today. So yes, in that sense, it was spiritual because he came to disrupt so much. Nandi, the mother, was beguiled and treated like the scorn of the earth, but not Shaga's father, Senzangakona, who was king and the one that had made her pregnant. So we were slowly becoming patriarchal, moving away from patrilineality. And I believe Shaga is there to show us that when ancestors have their mark on you, it doesn't matter if you are illegitimate. And in fact, to even use that name is unfair on an infant. So it doesn't matter what society says about your illegitimacy. It doesn't matter what society says about your mother. When they have a mark on you, you will become what your destiny is. So I think in that sense, Nyamfor, I mean, this on its own is a podcast. We can talk about this as a podcast because someone would say, okay, what then on the other people on whom, who were disrupted at the time during that time of state formation? But I guess that's an answer for another podcast.
Okay, all right. Oh my God, this has been.
Can I say one last thing, Mebola?
Go ahead.
So Judaism teaches you hate, right? And if you doubt that, look at Israel and Palestine. Christianity teaches you hate. And if you doubt that, look at the history of Christianity in Europe. Islam teaches you hate. I know you Muslims like to claim that Islam does not teach you hate, but it does. That's why you're out here getting people to believe in Allah, right? Because according to Islam, if you do not believe in Allah, you will not rise to paradise. So you're teaching.
But also, you're an infidel. They even have a word for it. Yes. Same as Christians who call you heathen or demonic.
Yeah.
We have no word by which we call people who are not in African spirituality.
That's what I'm saying there. African spirituality does not teach hate. And therefore, you have to step back and ask yourself, these three teach hate. Mine doesn't. Then why am I abandoning my way?
Word. What a word in Ndungu. African spirituality does not do this. First, how you call it word? To evangelize.
Yeah. And we don't evangelize. Yeah. We don't go around telling you to sign up or you're going to burn in hell because we do not believe in that, right? So you have, the thing I'm advising everyone is to be okay with being uncomfortable. Uncomfortable for the sake of getting to a point of well-being. Because we are already uncomfortable. We are uncomfortable, but we are dying. We are uncomfortable, but we are unhappy. We are uncomfortable, but divorce rates are high. I'm saying we are uncomfortable as far as the system we are in. You go to work, you cannot be your black self. If you show your blackness, you are fired or you're called into the office to be corrected. So we are already entertaining discomfort, but not for our well-being. So be okay with entertaining discomfort for your well-being. Because what do I mean? For you to be told that what you have believed for years is wrong will be very uncomfortable. It was for me.
Yep.
But be okay with it so that you can heal, so that we can move to a world that is life-giving and not death-giving. Because today we are currently in a system of death-giving everywhere we go.
Oh my God. You done, Mama? The both of you are done?
Yes. Yes, I'm done.
Oh, wow.
I think Ndugu has ended it very well.
I'm going
be prepared to be uncomfortable for your own good.
Yeah. I'm going
not for the good of the system.
Nope. Be prepared to be uncomfortable. Yep. I'm going to play this on drum and then I'm going to close us.
The talking drum.
Mama, you want to close by thanking the ancestors and
Yes, when we do this in my culture, we don't even need to speak because this is not the same as this. When I do this or I do this, I'm praising you. But when I do this, I return glory to all the forebearers, thousands of years that have preceded us and left us the legacy of the knowledge and the wisdom that we shared today in this podcast. So we're gonna do this. It's enough without words. Togoza.
Togoza.
As we wrap up, remember, people, remember that colonialism was more than just about taking land. It was about shaping our minds, our cultures, and our spiritualities. As the speakers have told us today, our guests have told us today. If we want true freedom, we must start by decolonizing our minds. Our sister said, prepare to be uncomfortable. It's okay to be uncomfortable. It doesn't kill. It's being not comfortable. It's not really harmful to the point of death. So thank you, our sister.
Change your epistemology. Change
Oh,
what you define as knowledge and change the tools you use to gather knowledge.
change those things. Change those things. Or examine, revisit. Yeah, look at them closely. Question them. Maybe start from there. If you still want to hold on to them, but start questioning. But at the end of the day, you will have to make change, no matter how hard change is. So be prepared to do that. Thank you, Mama Kanyisile, for joining us today from South Africa. I know it's late at our end. Ndugu, where are you? You're in the US, right?
I'm in the criminal enterprise, the mother of all crime. Yes, unfortunately.
What part of the US are you?
Let me not say that in case there are heathens come to get me.
Yes, I don't want you to say it either.
Okay, that's fine. But thank you for once again for enlightening us on the path to rediscovery. People, don't forget to visit Mama Kanyisile website and pre-order your copy of Deconstructing Gender in African Spirituality, the untold stories of African warrior women. How do you say it again in your language?
Ubulungisa.
Exactly. Please go on her website and order that. The website is in the link. I mean, the link is in the comment section. I'm going to share it over and over again. Go there, pre-order your copy of Deconstructing Gender in African Spirituality, the untold stories of African warrior women. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and most importantly, know that patriarchy is not African. And y'all stop telling me you yet preaching gender equality. You know you African, oh, you come to America, you want to American with American, they not teach us to treat each other as equals. Our foremothers and forefathers were like that. They went ahead, these white people went ahead and Arabs and destabilized all of that. And for centuries, they disrupted our people way of life. So we try to find our way back there. And then they're coming back to us and telling us is the millennial development goal to teach us to treat each other as equal because gender equality is concept from there. It's not true. Patriarchy is not African. Thank you to our viewers for joining us today. Let's
Asante.
continue the download, elevate our voices, and actively participate in shaping a world where social justice isn't an aspiration alone, but a reality. Join us next time on a new day as we continue to explore and advocate for social reform. Remember, change begins with a conversation. Let's make every day a new day for progress. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. How do you say the word again?
Togoza.
Ulungisa. Oh, Togoza.
Ubulungisa.
I see Dennis joining us to end. Dennis, you want to say a word?
No, just say thank you for coming. We really appreciate your time and we
Asante.
learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante.